Hey guys, Peter here to do an EP review. Today I'm here to tell you about the latest from Carcass, Despicable, out October 30th on Nuclear Blast. This EP has 4 tracks, 21 minutes in length, and this is the band's 6th EP, first new release since 2013's Surgical Steel, and perhaps a placeholder until they release their full-length album in 2021. Now, if there's one thing you can take away from this EP is that Carcass ages like a fine wine. This is absolutely vintage Carcass. This is not a case of a band trying to still hold on to the place that they had in extreme metal. This is more the case of a band saying, hey, we're still here and we can still put out quality tracks like we did in the past. The 7 years that we took as a break haven't affected the band at all. We're still the same band, we're still Carcass, and we still have cards to deal. These 4 tracks with this EP is definitely proof of that. Now, before I get into the songs, I want to give you a little bit of a snapshot of the overall sound that you're going to get from these 4 tracks. From a guitarist perspective, I really love the overall guitar sound. It has that Carcass DNA and how it was mixed and how it was recorded and how it comes across. It's driven, it's melodic, it's heavy, but it has enough substance and volume to really become the driving force behind every single song here. The drums allow themselves to still be heavy, still have a presence, but not being overpowering. I didn't feel like they were working in a partnership neck and neck with the guitars. They allowed the guitars to push themselves to the forefront while taking more of a back seat and creating the foundation, the baseline that the songs needed without really taking over and over-controlling how the songs sound. Now, the bass is really important. I really enjoy the bass on these 4 tracks, on all of them. Very predominant, very in the forefront. They didn't hide it in the mix. They allowed to have a huge presence, to play a huge role in how the tracks sound and how they feel, adding a little bit of grooviness, but also a little bit of darkness, and really balancing out the overall sound that the tracks have. I love the bass on all 4 songs. Really predominant, like I said, really in the forefront, not being hidden at all. It adds a different vibe. A lot of metal bands these days tend to hide the bass in the mix, and I love a band that pushes into the forefront because I feel like it just adds so much flavor to the tracks. The vocals are on point. Once again, vintage, really delivering that final Carcass signature touch with every single track. Just magnificent, really balanced. There's no dips. The quality is at a very high level as far as the vocals are concerned on every single song, from the beginning of the EP to the end of the EP and everything in between. Now, this EP really delivers. I really feel like if the point is to announce yourselves and to really create expectations towards the full-length album that's coming in 2021, this EP is going to deliver on all fronts. Because after listening to these 4 tracks, the only thing you're going to be wanting is at least 6 more. So with that full-length album in the horizon, this is the perfect appetizer for it. Now, as far as tracks are concerned, let's start off with the opening track, The Living Dead at the Manchester Morgue. Great riff, driven, melodic, has a lot of power, a lot of heaviness into this song. The vocals and guitar together really push this track forward. I really felt that they partnered up in a perfect way that really allows for this thick sound to push this track along the way. It moves well, sometimes it moves a little bit more melancholic, sometimes it moves a little bit faster. It has these 2 different worlds present within the song, but it makes the track more dynamic. It gives these ups and downs, but it's still very balanced in how they're put together because you don't really feel that there is an abrupt transition from one to the other. The bass is killer on this track. It really comes forward, specifically more in the more methodic, melancholic portions of the track. You could really hear that bass having a huge presence. It adds to the atmosphere that those portions of the song has. It adds more substance to the overall sound. And then you get a magnificent solo on this track that really brings a lot of light, a lot of brightness into how the song feels and then how it all comes together. But this is a track that has all the Carcass signature elements present in it, from top to bottom. Guitars, bass, drums, vocals, everything that you've gotten to expect from Carcass is present on this opening track. Next, The Long and Winding Beer Road. The guitar riff on this song has a lot of grittiness to it. It still has a lot of volume, but it also has a lot of grittiness to it. The bass brings the sound down a little bit. I really felt like it grounded the overall presence, the overall soundscape of the track a lot more. It allows the track to still be melodic, but have this deeper, heavier bass line that really pulls everything down. You feel like the bass is working almost as gravity, bringing the track down. Has a more linear approach. This is definitely a song that doesn't offer as much of a counterbalance between two different portions or two different parts that are very distinct one from the other. So I felt overall this is a track that's more linear, more balanced. It has intensity within it, and most of the intensity that it has, it really comes from the vocals more so than from the music itself. But overall is a very balanced melodic track. Next, Under the Scalpel Blade, methodic and heavy track. That's pretty much the two words to describe how this track feels and sounds. It still has its driven moments, it still has a lot of heaviness into it, but the song really has these two different worlds that merge themselves and allows to blend one with the other in almost a seamless way. Is a track that you go from this more melancholic aspect to a little bit more of a driven one without even noticing until you're already in the other. So it's a track that has a great power of transition between the two main elements that really created this overall track. The solo, once again, is magnificent, but before you even get to the solo, the lead into the solo and the outro that comes out of the solo makes that solo even more important. The outro is absolutely destructive from a vocal perspective and from a musical perspective. It just injects a lot of heaviness and aggression, and then it takes that aggression and heaviness and pushes it all the way to the end of the song. Last but not least, Slaughtered in Soho. This one was very different. It had all the Carcass elements, but from a guitar perspective, it had more of a rock vibe. It almost felt like it had a Soundgarden riff to it. It just had more of a stripped down rock feel to it. It didn't have that same crunchy sound, that same drag out sound. It had almost a little bit more of a rock uplifting feel in how it was put together. But the Carcass DNA is still there. It just has a different fragrance to it, if you will. The song really feels different from that perspective, but it moves along as you expect it to move along. It has a great soundscape, it has a great delivery, it's really well constructed. The vocals bring the track together. I think the vocals are the element that really makes everything else feels like this is a Carcass song. It doesn't allow this track to kind of step outside of the parameters set by the other three tracks. It allows it to stay combined while still having a lot of elements within its soundscape that feel different, that come across in a different way, perhaps in a more pure rock way than the other tracks. The other tracks have more of a driven sound. They're more crunchier. This one feels a little bit more stripped down, a little bit more pure, more raw, if you will. But everything, it's still there. It's still Carcass. It just has perhaps a different bass line. It's still a song that has a lot of heaviness to it. It still forces you to headbang, but at the same time, you just want to vibe to it. It just has these two different emotions depending on which part of the song you're on. This is it. This is Carcass with Despicable, out October 30th on Nuclear Blast. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. Take care, guys.